It's a tough place to go, the King Power. It's been a happy hunting ground for the Blues in recent years, though. Unbeaten in the last 7 meetings on Fox's Soul. But Brendan Rodgers' side are flying. It's a big one tonight. Chelsea versus Leicester City in the Premier League. Hello and welcome to Matchday Live. I am joined, of course, by Jason Cundy, Savage Dan and Zach Jellab. Boys, it's going to be a busy evening, so let's get straight to it. Jace, we know what's at stake. Leicester can go top if they win the game today. They've been very impressive. We're going to need to be at it from minute one, aren't we?
Absolutely. Like everyone, they've had a couple of dodgy results, in particular at home to Fulham, where Fulham done an absolute number on them. But generally, they've been pretty consistent throughout the season. Everyone's been in the same position, very little pre-season. COVID is here. There's been a number of players throughout every squad pretty much that's had their problems. But Brendan's got a pretty settled squad and a pretty settled team. They've had injuries. Soyuncu has been missing, but they've managed to cope with that. Vardy's managed to stay fit, which is a good thing for them. This is going to be a tough game. I'm going into this with my eyes wide open, fully expecting a tough game, a very well-oiled machine. Brendan has got them playing in a style that he has become accustomed to, and the players, it suits the team. Quick through the middle of the park, quick over the top, defensively solid. There's a lot to like about this Leicester side. We're going to have to be absolutely at it. Bring our A game. And when, of course, we've got a chance. If we don't, this will be a very, very tough evening.
Dan, it will be a tough evening, won't it? But we know how unpredictable the Premier League has been this season. And it does feel like you put a run of results together and all of a sudden teams above you are looking over their shoulder. And I suppose that's the incentive today is you've got a team that are in front of Chelsea that immediately will be looking over their shoulder. If you beat them today, there's no bigger statement to make.
Yeah, it only takes around 2 or 3 weeks. And before you know it, you're 6 points clear of a team that are below you. We've seen it happen with Man United. I don't know how they've crept to the top of the table when we were looking down at them, just before Christmas. Look, it's all about momentum. Every game's tough now. And when you get a Leicester side who have in recent years just become kind of cemented themselves as a top 4 team and as a good team in the Premier League, it's always going to be a difficult game. But we can do it. We're Chelsea, and we haven't had the rub of the green recently, but I'm sure it will come hopefully sooner rather than later and we can get a result and start climbing up this table.
Hopefully so, mate. Zach, I suppose the additional thing today, and it's maybe a little bit uncharted territory for Chelsea in a way, is that probably the pressure's on Leicester a little bit more tonight, considering, they are going into the team knowing that a win can take them to the top of the Premier League. They're at home. They'll be expected to carry on a good home form and they'll fancy their chances. And we've seen in there's countless examples that Chelsea tend to play better and do better against teams that want to engage and want to attack and fancy their chances a little bit more. So perhaps it's set up quite nicely for Chelsea tonight.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we find it a lot easier against teams that aren't sitting back. I think with the way that we want to play football and the way Leicester want to play football, to be honest, it could be a game that's going end to end and within the first half an hour, our players are all blowing. But you're right. There is a lot of talk at the moment. Obviously, they win this game, Leicester, they do go top of the league. And there is a lot of pressure on them. But in the same sense, Chelsea still have pressure. No matter what happens, whether we're performing well, whether we're performing badly, Chelsea will always have pressure, unlike many clubs. Unless really the top 3, your Cities, Liverpools, and maybe your Manchester Uniteds. But it's about how we deal with it. This could be a real turning point today. We could sit here at full time having won the game and being, wow, this is it now. We look like the team who can push on and strive on. And I think it's kind of a matter of time until that happens. And maybe this can be the catalyst for it.
Fingers crossed, mate. Well, you all know what it is by now. It's time for Play Predictor, your chance to get your scores in on the fifth stand-up. 7:15 is the deadline to get your predictions in, so make sure you do that pretty sharpish onto the fifth stand-up. Some big prizes up for grabs as well. £100 Megastore voucher and a signed shirt this week. And if you top the monthly leaderboard for January, you can bag yourself a £500 voucher and a signed merchandise bundle as well. Fanu from Thailand won on Saturday against Fulham. 70 points scored. 70 points is a very, very good total. So the prizes are on their way to you, Fanu. Congratulations, well played. If you can beat that score, or if you can win today, then you'll be buzzing. So it's free to play. Make sure you have a little go on it. Go and do that quickly before the deadline closes. We only focus on the final scores. So this is what we have gone for tonight. I've gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win. Jason has gone for a 1-1 draw. Dan has gone for a 2-1 Chelsea win. Zach has gone for a 2-2 draw. Jace, as we've already addressed at the start of the show, it's going to be a difficult one tonight. It's going to be a good test, though. Is that why you think it's going to be a 1-1 draw?
Yeah, I think anything we take from here is going to be a decent, well-earned point, whether it be 1 or 3. For the points I've just highlighted earlier about how tough this is going to be. And I think we're going to go into this, Frank's not silly, the players will realise who they're up against. But we're talking about a side here that we can go and attack before you think about what we had against Fulham, where they're going to sit deep, frustrate, deny space in behind, that the 2 blocks, difficult to get to penetrate, difficult to get the players in the areas we want. I think we'll find it a little easier today. I think there'll be space. The reason of that is because they're a good side and they'll come on to us. They'll give us that opportunity and they'll fancy their chances. They've got pace out wide, and I think that they will use the width of the pitch. Harvey Barnes in particular has had a stellar season. And in doing so, that transition when we win the ball, I want to see us move the ball quickly. I felt against Fulham, and I have done this season, we're a little laboured. The passing has got to be sharp, move the ball quickly, take advantage if and when they're out of position, because it lasts in the Premier League for maybe 3 or 4 seconds that you get that opportunity to move that ball, get in beyond them. If we move the ball quickly in those chances, then I believe we can get at them. I think it's going to be tight whatever way we look at it, so that's why I've gone for 1-1.
Zach, do you echo that? It's going to be a tough one tonight, and both teams will fancy it, so maybe a little bit of a cancelling each other out.
Indeed, yeah. I think this could be a huge game for Chelsea's wingers, whoever they may be. Whether it's like we've got pace or tactical prowess and play in Ziyech maybe starting. The other issue is Leicester aren't too bad going forward themselves. James Maddison seems to be improving season on season. We didn't really face him last year because he was injured. Jamie Vardy, I mean, what a player he is, and the pace on him is quite ridiculous. So we have to be careful of that. And Harvey Barnes as well. This year, he's also really come into his own, chipping with a few more goals. There's players all over that pitch for Leicester who can contribute for their squad. So I think it's going to be a very tough game, a battled game. And if you're a neutral, it could be one of the games of the season, to be quite honest. I think it'll be a lot better than the United Liverpool one, that's for sure.
Well, that's not difficult, to be fair, though, is it? Dan, I'll save you to last because you've gone for 2-1 tonight, which I'm loving the positivity. But it leads us nicely onto our hot topic 1 for tonight, which is this the biggest game of the season so far for Chelsea tonight?
I'm not sure. I feel like we've said that a few times this season already. It's a huge game, and games that are either going to hopefully swing us into some forward momentum, or they could put us back in the mud, and we have even more pressure on us than we've had. But look, it's Leicester. It's always they know what you're going to get with Leicester. They want to move the ball forward fast. They want to hurt you. They don't really dwell on it and do, all that passing and tick-a-tacker stuff before they break you down. It's very direct. So I think a lot of this game is going to be won and lost in the transitions. When that ball turns over, who's the fastest to react, the second balls, everything like that. So it's important that we're at the races and we don't have a slow start. Because if we are at the races and we meet them head on straight away, we can beat anybody in this league if we are on our game.
Absolutely. And Jay, we've already spoken about this, and Frank Lampard mentioned it in the week about building momentum. We're coming off the back of 2 wins against Morecambe in the FA Cup and then Fulham at the weekend. But this is the toughest of the run of fixtures we've got, in terms of Morecambe, Fulham. We've got Luton Town at the weekend, Wolves next week, midweek, where they're not in great form, and then Burnley to finish off January. So this is the test in January, isn't it? So if you get through tonight and you get a good result, all of a sudden you could be on, a 6-game winning streak by the time we play Tottenham at the start of February.
Yeah, look, things can change very quickly, good and bad, as we found out. We played against Everton, and if we'd gone and won there, we'd have gone top of the table again. Things turned bad from there, and the results have been disappointing, as have the performances. And teams around us have picked up points, and the league can change very, very quickly. If we lose tonight, Leicester go 9 points clear of us. West Ham currently are beating West Brom, and they've now moved above us. And now you start to look at the table a very different way. Win tonight, we go 6 points behind Leicester. And by my mathematics, just 2 behind Liverpool, the champions. So it can look so different in a very short space of time. And that's how important today's game. I think today, I heard Dan said he wasn't sure about it. I think today's enormous, because if we were to win, we claw back ground on that top 4. If we lose, we all of a sudden, that gap that's now reasonably sized becomes quite big, and we've got teams like West Ham above us, and Southampton will have a game in hand. They can go above us. It can be distorted in just 90 minutes and 3 very, very valuable points.
Zach, like Jason's saying there, it's so sort of choppy and changey at the top end of the Premier League. The way that the media have reported Chelsea over the last couple of weeks, to say that we could be 2 points behind Liverpool at full time, you couldn't understand that in terms of the way that people talk about the two different teams, But that is exactly it. You put a run together this season, and in previous years, by January and February comes around, the table's taking shape. The teams in the four top positions at the moment, they could be completely different. You could have two or three of those, not even in the top four at the end of the season. So it is about playing the next game, I suppose, and taking it one game at a time. And if we can win tonight, that's huge.
Indeed, yeah. This season and the Prem, it's nuts. It's like nothing we've ever been through. To be quite honest, if you lose a game, you go to eighth. If you win a game, you go to second. And form is the most important thing, more than ever, of recent seasons, by the looks of it. And so it's different. Obviously, the media always wants to tell a story, get people to be reading it, and so that's the way they can do that. But the Chelsea players know this. Frank Lampard knows this. Everyone at the club understands that, okay, right now we are in a position where we win this game, we beat Leicester. That story completely flips, and it's praise Lampard, praise the players, and let's just hope it's that rather than anything else.
Completely right, mate. Well, we are joined by Matt Davies-Adams, who's at the King Power for us tonight. Matt, how are you, mate? Are you good?
Very well, Joe. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. Very well. Now, you've got the all-important team news for us. I think we've all had a chat off-air in WhatsApp groups and on Twitter. None of us can predict it, so please tell us. Talk to us.
Okay, I can tell you there are 4 changes from Saturday at Fulham. We've got Reece James, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Kai Havertz and Tammy Abraham all coming in. They're taking the place of Azpilicueta, Jorginho, Ziyech and Giroud. The first 3 of those are on the bench. But yeah, I'm guessing everybody's pretty happy that Callum's starting. That's probably the headline.
I think that's it, isn't it, Matt? I think we've all seen over the last couple of weeks the impact he's had. He's been fantastic, hasn't he? And again, tonight's an opportunity for him to really show what he's about. And if he carries on the way he's been playing in recent weeks, he could end up being one of the first names on the team sheet going into February.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's not much more that he can do. It's interesting, isn't it? Looking at this team, Frank said on Saturday that experience was the key. And then you look at the 4 players who've come in tonight and it's kind of the opposite of that. So you wonder if he's thinking, well, we need to match Leicester's energy and freshness. And, the likes of Callum and Tammy and Reece James will certainly do that for you.
Jace, who needs a performance tonight?
Everyone. I mean, after the last 5 or 6 games where the drop-off has been quite dramatic, we all need a performance. Even the game let's be honest, against West Ham, for an hour we were second best and we managed to get the points. We were more clinical. They didn't have a shot on target. Up top, our quality showed in the end. You could say the same against Fulham. They went down to 10 men. The performance wasn't of the standard that we want and we got the result. But we need a performance to get a result today. I don't think we can fluke a game today. I don't think we can play like we did against West Ham or Fulham and get a result today. We're going to have to absolutely bring our A game. I'm pleased Callum's in the starting lineup. I said at the weekend, I thought he was unlucky not to start. He deserves his place and perhaps a game too short. Zuma missing is interesting. Didn't see that coming, but look, in Rudiger we got the pace. Vardy will be looking to probably get on the side of Silva, so Silva needs a good game. Look, we just need all of us to be in this, have the same ambition going into this game, and everyone's got to pull in the same direction. Because Leicester side, I feel if there are 1 or 2 players today on our side that aren't at it, and Leicester are, we will probably lose. So everyone's got to be at it.
Matt, we saw at the weekend, I suppose, a few eyebrows raised purely because their partnership seemed sort of untouchable for large parts of the season. But Antonio Rudiger getting the nod ahead of Kurt Zouma, he's kept his place tonight. Obviously, I think we're all thinking back to last season when he scored twice there. So a little bit of that would be very nice tonight. But what's your thinking behind that?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually an interesting point, Joe. It's not something that you would pick a defender on generally, but Chelsea scored more goals from corners than any other team in the Premier League this season. And they're joint top in terms of goals from set pieces too. And obviously last season here, Rudiger, header from a Mount corner. Rudiger, header from a Mount free kick. So, I mean, I think probably the thinking is that he did all right, didn't he, on Saturday? He's now started more games for Chelsea this season than he has for Germany. But let's not forget, this is an experienced German international we're talking about coming into the team. It's not a rookie. And Frank always says, doesn't he, it's based on what you do in training. And he's obviously impressed. And he's got good form on this ground. So hopefully that continues.
Fingers crossed. Dan, obviously a massive bonus, and we knew that he was in the squad at the weekend, so he was nearing fitness. But how much of a boost is having Reece James back at right back?
Yeah, it's a massive boost. I feel like physically, one-on-one, he's one of the best in the league. Wins personal battles. There's been a danger sometimes that he can switch off and kind of just not check his blind spots, but you get that with young. I think in a game like this, where I feel like they're going to come onto us, his role in this game is going to be crucial.
Zach, I want to save the Callum Hudson-Odoi chat for a little bit later on, because I know we've all got sort of a conversation in him about it, but because we've seen so much of him over the last couple of weeks. But Tammy Abraham, is a big chance for him tonight, and we spoke about the strengths within Leicester's squad. Do you think maybe that's why Tammy's been given the nod tonight? Perhaps a little bit more mobility than Olivier Giroud. Do you think that's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this game's going to have a lot of running involved, and something that, although Giroud is good at pressing, he is good at running, Tammy brings it to another level. Tammy's energy levels, and also partially his link up with some of the academy boys who he knows a bit longer has been fantastic. Because when he was dropped, I think you could have said he hasn't necessarily done anything wrong. Neither has Olivier Giroud, to be quite honest. But it's just about what kind of game suits what kind of player at the moment with Chelsea's strike lineup, whether it's Giroud, Werner or Tammy. And I very much believe today, if he takes his chance, then he'll be in the squad for the weekend and for the games after it. It's very much about taking a chance and proving to Lampard that I need to be the starting striker, because there's a lot of competition at the club.
Matt, is there anything that stands out from the Leicester team news for us this evening?
There's a couple of bits, yeah. I mean, Vardy was touch and go, apparently. He's had a hip problem, so that's going to be interesting to monitor. Obviously, somebody who, even at his age, relies so much on his pace. So if he's not 100%, that could work in Chelsea's favour. And the other one was they were hoping to have Soyuncu back in defence tonight, and he's not made it. So that's a bonus for Chelsea too. But you look through their team, there's a lot of players in decent form at the moment, not least James Maddison. He's somebody Chelsea are going to have to keep a really close eye on.
Absolutely right, Jace. It's going to be a big battle in the middle of the park. We spoke about potentially. We knew that N'Golo Kanté wouldn't quite make this evening, so that the question mark was going to be who's going to play in that deeper role. It looks to me like Mateo Kovacic. Is that how you see it? And if it is him, he's got a battle on today with Ndidi, Tielemans, and Maddison in the middle.
Yeah, assuming we're playing the 4-3-3, you've got Kova, you've got Mount, you've got Kai in the middle of the park. That's how it looks, unless Matt can shed any light on that. I mean, when you look at that team, it could be a 4-2-3-1 potentially. I very much doubt it. But and have you heard anything else, Matt, on the team formation at all?
No, it looks like 4-3-3 to me, Jace. I'd go with you for that, particularly trying to match up with Leicester's midfield. That would make the most sense, I think.
Yeah, you're right to raise that point, Joe, because more often than not, the engine room of any team in any game, win that, you go a long way to win the game. But I think fullbacks, both of them, I think both sets of teams have got really interesting fullbacks, both attacking and defensively. It might be the wide areas that, if you get the better of that, if you see Reece and Ben bombing on and you get the better. I like James Justin. I think he's a really, really good, really brilliant young player who no doubt, I think at some stage will get an England call up. So just watch out for those wide areas. That might be an interesting battle.
Absolutely, mate. Well, that is all from us for now. We'll be back shortly, of course. But first, you can see Frank Lampard's press conference in full.
Just secondly, Frank, on Fikayo Tomori, a year ago he was a regular starter for you. When did it start to go wrong from Chelsea, and why? Why has he fallen down the pecking order?
I don't think there's any when did it start to go wrong. Fikayo's a developing player. As a team, as a squad, we had 4 centre-backs last year. I can't play 4 in one game. And you try and find consistency at different times. At one point, Fikayo was in that, and then later on, not so much. And then this year, we have 5 centre-backs. So the predicament is difficult for centre-backs that are not playing regularly. And that's why he may go out on loan for his development. As I say, as a young player, his development has been a huge rise in the last 2 or so seasons since I've been working with him. And that will continue, and we'll find the best path for that.
The reports are that it's with an obligation to buy to AC Milan. But from what you're telling me, I assume you'd like him to return.
We haven't got any. There is no detail on what those reports I've read as well, but they're not to be confirmed.
Okay, thanks very much, Frank.
Thank you.
Emma Saunders.
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
You talked about the confidence levels perhaps lacking a bit in some of your forward players. Now, Mason Mount doesn't look like a player that's lacking in that department at all, especially not against Fulham. I just wondered how much you think his performances can help raise the confidence in those other players around him who are perhaps not hitting their full potential at the moment.
Yeah, certainly it can help because you can see that Mason's playing with confidence, hence his 2 goals in the last 2 games, but his general play is really good. I keep talking about him a lot and since the weekend, and I think his work ethic in training is one of those reasons, the way he keeps his standards high every day. So I think there are things that other players can look at with Mason. And at the same time, it is clear when you're in a difficult patch individually or collectively, you have to fight and play your way out of it. So you rely on players around you doing their job. Mason's doing it at the minute, but we've got lots of players like that in forward areas. We just need a kickstart from them. We need to see some numbers, some production from the front end of the pitch. You look around the Premier League and you see teams that are being successful generally or in good runs have people at the top end of the pitch that are firing and scoring and assisting. And we've been a bit short on that recently, but it will come back. It will come back. The players have to fight their way through those little periods or patches. And at the moment, Mason is a good example of someone that's always fighting and he's playing really well.
Looking ahead to this game against Leicester City, I just wondered where you think Leicester are in this title race and just how open you think it is in general.
Yeah, I mean, they're in it for sure. The way they're playing, the results they're getting, their position in the league, it's clear. It's the same as last season. We managed to get above Leicester at the back end of the season, but it was a big ask for us because they're a very good team with very good individuals, we know that, and a really good manager, a really good coach in Brendan. So they're in the race. There are others that are in the race. We have to not consider too much the race as it stands at the minute and consider ourselves, consider can we get a result against Leicester who are a competitor up there, and then see can we get wins together that will propel us back up to where we want to be. But the race is relatively open, especially in comparison probably to recent years, I suppose.
Just finally from me, going back to these confidence levels, what would a win do against Leicester for those levels within the squad and the feeling in the camp?
Yeah, it would help. It would certainly help because Leicester are a quality team who are getting results, as I just said. So it would help. But we're not the only team in that position. You look around at top teams, examples yesterday of teams that come off it a bit or certain elements or parts of the team are not firing. And it's hard to win games in this league. So I don't want to lean too much on our own confidence. It's a part of the picture at the moment. But for me, the work ethic and the team really being focused is just as important as the confidence, because the quality in the team is there, the potential is there, and it will be unlocked. It's just making sure for a tough moment that we do all the right things to get it back from where it may have been.
John Southwood, BBC 5 Live.
Hi Frank.
Hi John.
On Leicester, their form this season suggests that actually you're possibly better playing them away from home.
I don't know. I think, maybe on form. I don't think form or those sort of things directly relate. Sometimes it's type of teams that want to have possession, want to counter-attack, want to sit deep. And I think Leicester and in Brendan, they have capability to do both as a team. So I'm not considering that too much.
I know you spoke about Timo Werner after the game on Saturday, and you said there are things you could do to help him. I mean, is it purely down to confidence with him, and what can you do to kind of help him find the form that he's in there?
We'll speak with him, manage him in that sense, and manage him on the training pitch, because that's where little periods like this always turn around. It's something I experienced a lot in my career, something that all players will experience in their careers in their own ways. When you are a top player, as Timo's shown that he is, all eyes are on, and it becomes magnified. But the basics are the same, and that's what my job is to tell him that and work with him on it.
Moose. Unmute yourself, Moose, and away you go.
Hi Frank, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I just want to follow on about Timo Werner. I mean, I've covered Chelsea long enough, and you played for them long enough to have seen strikers arrive or forward attacking players arrive with really big reputations, the likes of Torres, likes of Morata. What is it about not only Chelsea but a lot of clubs whereby it can be really difficult if you absolutely don't hit the ground running and you get into a rut to end up being labelled as somebody who is not a success at a club?
Well, first of all, I don't want to compare him to anybody, because I think if we just narrowly compare him to some Chelsea signings, I think it would be the wrong way. Everybody's story is different. Fernando Torres had difficult times here, but came away winning the Champions League and being a pivotal player in our run to winning the Champions League. So I don't think you should compare too much. All we need to do here at the moment, Timo and myself and teammates around him, is to create the best environment to get the best out of Timo, which means firstly himself working hard, as I say, any striker who knows. And when you see the chance he misses the other day, that's just repetition on a training ground. Everyone will go through those patches, whether you repeat it 1,000 times or not. But when you are in that moment, you must repeat and keep working. And then he also needs support and help around him, and he needs to keep his head down and focus. And my job is to support around him and give him positivity and confidence, because Timo Werner didn't by chance score the amount of goals over the last few years that he scored. He scored those goals because of his huge talent. A tough time for him here at the moment is a small period in what I believe will be a fantastic career from him going forward at Chelsea. I've got no doubts about that, and I hope people around it can also see it that way.
And one more on Mason Mount. I mean, obviously, I saw him with you at Derby. I followed his career with Chelsea in England. I don't think he's let anybody down, either at Derby, with Chelsea, or with England yet. Does seem to have some critics. Are they just jealous of him and his talent and his enthusiasm?
I'm not sure what they are, if they are his critics. I'm not sure how anybody could really criticise him of late. I felt it last year. Last year, Mason was playing regularly for us, and I felt some of the critics in the modern world. It's really easy to hear them, even if you don't use social media. You lot ask me about it all the time, and I think I mentioned it before. And Mason's the type of midfield player is that he does so much great work for the team off the ball, which I think maybe for the naked eye is not as exciting as a overhead kick or a treble step over. He does all those basics well. He moves the ball so quickly. He's a great teammate. We've seen recently he scores goals, he finds assists, he does all those things. So I don't think it matters if people are critical in any way. And one thing he has got as well, Moose, is a really great attitude. He has a real great way of just not seeming like he's ever perturbed by what may be critics outside. The critics are wrong. There's no doubt about that. Anyone who understands or knows football and watches Mason Mount play understands what an incredible talent he is. Just turned 22. Imagine when he's 25. Imagine when he's 27. So the critics don't matter when it comes to Mason.
Funny one on Brendan, someone you know well. Always enjoyable when we take on someone who's a friend.
Yeah, it is, and Brendan's a gentleman, and he's a good friend. Was very helpful to me in my career here as a player. He's probably working more in the academy, but whenever he came over, it was very clear and evident that he was going to become a great coach in his own right, and he's gone on to do that. I think the jobs he's done at all his clubs have been really, really impressive, particularly the success he's having of late in the last few years. So, I enjoy going up against him. He's difficult to go up against because he's a really good coach and he's got good players. But at the same time, I'll have respect for Brendan no matter what. We'll have a tough battle and then shake hands. Well, not shake hands, sorry, we'll fist pump.
Nick Purewell.
Hi Frank, you said obviously forget the title race, that's just, effectively league table for the minute. Completely understand that. Can you get yourselves back into it? And just on the wider situation for January, obviously we've seen a loan for Danny today and talk, for Kerr's situation's been much talked about. Do you need people to leave to bring people in? Is that a part of the equation for the transfer window?
Again, the reason I say about the title race, I don't want to go that far, so it doesn't matter to say whether we can get back in it or not. At the moment, we just need to consider the games in front of us and try and win them and try and push ourselves steadily up the table. We're not in a bad position. We've had a bad short period of form. If we can put wins together this month, then the picture will change, as it's changed very quickly already this year in so many ways. So that's my point on that one. In terms of players, I think it's great for Danny to leave to go and play for himself as much as anybody, to go and try and get some games for himself. For Kayo, we'll see. I'm not considering about getting players out to bring in at this point. I'm trying to make sure that the balance of the squad we have here is right, and if there are players that move on and that's beneficial for them as well as for our squad, then that's a positive.
In a world of much restricted movement, Chelsea have got special dispensation here for a Saturday evening date with the neighbours. Brilliant layoff. Ziyech! That looked good.
Brilliant. Great communication. Layoff superb. Decent enough save, you'd have to say.
Chance for Azpilicueta to cross, and it's a good one. Pulisic was very interested there. It didn't quite reach him. Chilwell, too much on that one. Poor clearance. Mason Mount has smashed it against the bar.
Goodness me, doesn't he get hold of this? What a strike.
Neatly done. We know Robinson's got the pace, and he had a head start on Azpilicueta anyway. This is Tete, who still doesn't shoot. Oh, it's a brilliant chance for Caballero. Should have scored. Best chance of the game, and even Caballero, their midweek goal scorer, has missed it. Oh, Anthony Robinson, now, he's come in hard there. Azpilicueta seems to be in some pain. It's a red card.
Oh dear, yeah.
Don't think he's getting away with that.
No, correct decision, referee.
There will be someone getting a touch on the end of it, and hopefully it's the golden touch.
Yeah, and there's a sign, isn't there, from the last two.
Oh
no.
Mendy nearly caught out, and Caballero tried to chip it goalwards. Fulham took a quick free kick there and nearly caught Chelsea napping it. It's Callum Hudson-Odoi. He's found Chilwell. One side of the box to the other. Chilwell's cross. And it drops in for Mount! Mason Mount is Chelsea's hero. Breakthrough finally in the 78th minute. What a relief that is. All eyes on you, Peter Banks. Blow that whistle, and he does. Well, reserved celebrations, if you can even call them that, from Frank Lampard and co. But that is a massive win for him and his side.
Cuthbert managed to win that. Here's she. Kerr's touch. She's chasing her own flick on here, Sam Kerr. Can she make room for a shot? Earps managed to kick it away. First real chance of note for Chelsea. Found the way of the Australian. Pretty much all her own work too. Kirby. Well, she's totally taken Turner out of the game. It's Kerr again. Couldn't hit the target this time. Angle was tight in fairness to Sam Kerr. Earps made sure she didn't have much of the goal to aim at. Fairly satisfied with what she's seen so far, Emma Hayes. She won it back off Grunin. Here's Kerr, one-on-one with Earps again. And still it won't go in for Sam Kerr. All Chelsea's chances are falling her way. Hansen. Oh, and the shot is wide from press, and that is as good as it's got for United so far. G. Good play from loopholes. This is Kirby. Kicked away by Earps again. Sam Kerr amongst those in the middle. Wondering why it wasn't played her way. Away is the cry. It's a Chelsea head that meets it though and then cleared off the line. United struggling to get it clear. It's going to drop for Harder. And she's going to put Chelsea in front. Pernille Harder on the half hour. Chelsea's dominance rewarded with a goal. She was quickest to react to the loose ball. And the Blues deservedly ahead. Smith. Touched infield by Galton. Here's Smith again. Lauren James. Lovely footwork. She's got it back as well. Can she work an angle for a shot here? James! Oh, it's a brilliant goal. Risa's little sister steps off the bench to draw Manchester United level. What a talent the teenager is. A moment of individual brilliance, and we're all square. Kirby put a foot in to win it back. Here's Xi, looking for room for a shot maybe. Blocked at source. Kerr has another go. And once again, Earps is equal to it. From the key battle of the game, this one. So far, Mary Earps is coming out on top. Huge thump upfield. It's gone all the way through. Here's Kirby. She's one-on-one. Can Kirby finish? Oh, yes, she can. Super Fran at it again. It doesn't get any more Route 1 than that. But is that the goal that sends Chelsea top of the table?
Chelsea trip to the King Power with 14 goals in the last 7 visits. It's usually quite an entertaining game between these two, so make sure you stay with us on Matchday Live. Frank Lampard has made some changes from the side that beat Fulham at the weekend. The team he has selected tonight is this. In goal, Edouard Mendy. Reece James returns to the back for Antonio Rudiger. Thiago Silva captains the side tonight alongside Ben Chilwell, making his return to Leicester tonight, of course. Mateo Kovacic, Kai Havertz and Mason Mount in midfield. Callum Hudson-Odoi gets rewarded with a start. Christian Pulisic making his 50th appearance for Chelsea tonight. And Tammy Abraham up front. On the bench for Chelsea tonight, Kepa Arrizabalaga, Andreas Christensen, Jorginho, Timo Werner, Kurt Zouma, Hakim Ziyech, Billy Gilmore, says Azpilicueta and Emerson. Let's go on to our one to watch, because he's a man that we've all been wanting to talk about for a while. We've seen the impact that he's had off the bench over the last couple of weeks, rewarded with a start tonight. It's Callum Hudson-Odoi. Jace, it's only his third Premier League start of the season. He's made 17 appearances in all competitions, so he has been involved a fair amount, but over the last couple of weeks, his impact has been there to see, and I suppose we've all been waiting for the chance for him to start, and he gets that tonight.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is still him, the hangover from the injury, that the Achilles that he suffered under Sarri. That's how far back it goes. He was out for nearly a year. It takes a while to come back, as Ruben will testify as well. And it took a while for him to get back into the swing of things. He had other injuries as well, which kind of knocked him back again. And we've not really seen a fully fit Callum, probably up until that injury that he done. And I think we're now starting to see him look like the type of player that left us, because he was really, if you remember, and I'm sure you guys do, he was going through the gears nicely, regularly in the England setup as well. And that all was just cut short by that. I was here at Stamford Bridge, that really nasty Achilles injury. Now he's getting a swing of things. He's starting to get up ahead of steam, a bit of momentum. That confidence, of course, in the Achilles will no doubt be 100% now. And we're seeing having an impact off the bench. This is different. You've got to have an impact from the start. Sometimes when you come off the bench in a game that needs something different, because Callum's style, it's quite easy for him to catch the eye, because he's that type of player. Now he's starting, is now the responsibility to him from minute one to make sure he does something similar, catch the eye. And I don't doubt he'll do that, because he's one of those players that likes to drive at fullbacks. I like the fact that at times now he's starting to mix his game up. I thought it was a little predictable. Sometimes would come on the inside with him on the left or the right. He's now starting to really mix his game up, and now he's getting goals as well. So he deserves his start. I think it's perhaps a game too late for my liking, but he's up against Leicester, and this will be a big, big battle for wherever side he plays, probably the fullback, James Dustin. It's a really interesting game, and he deserves his starting place. No question about that.
Dan, Jason makes a great point there, and I suppose it does get forgotten. Firstly, how young Callum is, but also how young he is to have had such a serious injury, and perhaps that's something that we don't see behind the scenes. Fans, you want to see the players playing. You always want to see him starting games. You want to see him affecting games, but also Frank has got that responsibility to look after him. You bring a player of his explosive nature into the team, and he aggravates a previous injury, and there's another setback, and you're really sort of you're costing him developmental games and years, aren't you, really? So it's also looking after Callum as well as wanting him to play as much as we do, but you have to care for him, because it's a serious injury that he's come back from.
Yeah, it's hard not to be selfish, because you just want him to play, but he did suffer that injury quite young. That problem, because he'll that little bit better than if he did get that injury at, say, 30 years old. So he's obviously played his way back into form. He's done it in many ways the hard way, because he hasn't got, loads and loads of game time. But he's been knocking on the door for weeks now, as everyone said, and he's finally got his chance. And now, it's a game where, look, we need him to have a good performance. We're almost quite reliant on him. We're struggling to create a lot of chances at the moment. We're a little bit flat, and he has been that bright spark. So it'll be nice to see him come in and be very confident, very aggressive, and hopefully make the difference today.
Zach, we are, I'll admit it, I think we're hugely biased as Chelsea fans to want him to do well. I mean, there's that picture that's going around on social media, actually, we can see it now, of Samuel Eto'o celebrating his hat-trick against Manchester United in 2014, and he's celebrating with a ball boy, that's Callum Hudson-Odoi. Callum is Chelsea through and through, so we always want them to go on and be the superstar, and we know he can be. We've seen that, like Jason said, you don't get England call-ups, you don't sort of have the impact that he's had at such a young age without having that talent, but we do need to be patient with him. But there is so much love and affection towards him that when he does get the opportunity to play like tonight, everyone's so excited and buzzed straight away.
Exactly, and I think recently we've kind of seen why we are so excited. That thing when he came on against Leicester, it was like something different. The ability to not only go at the man, but as we said, he's now deciding I will go around the right instead of always around the left. There's a nice thing today where it's Frank's kind of gone, you know what, I'm going to trust the academy graduates. Reece James is back into the side, Tammy's back into the side, and Callum Hudson-Odoi is back into the side. And as Jay said, we haven't maybe seen this amount of Callum Hudson-Odoi since probably that under Sarri. And there is potential for, if he has a very good game, he makes one of these wing spots hits. I think it's probably going to be a situation where, depending on who you're playing, will depend on which winger starts, whether it's Ziyech, whether it's Pulisic, whether it's Callum Hudson-Odoi. But look, the way he is playing, he's got to make Frank go, oh, you're the first name on the team sheet. I cannot take you off because you're creating chances, you're scoring goals. If he can do that today, then I think we'll all be very pleased.
Well, it's a challenge that you're probably right. I mean, Frank's been setting ones recently. Before the weekend, he sounded out that we needed to get more goals from midfield. Mason Mount absolutely stepped up and delivered the winner on Saturday against Fulham. Jason's been taking a closer look at what's the kind of more advanced role might mean for him.
It was a tough evening against Fulham, but the one bright spark, I think it's fair to say, was this young man, Mason Mount. He's having a stellar season and was the standout performer on the evening. Always looking to create, always looking to go forward, and whenever Chelsea had something good going forward, generally he was involved. Desperately unlucky not to score early in the game. Frank has made the point about getting more goals. We'll talk about that in a second, because of course he got the winner. But he's always looking to go forward, always bright, always on the half turn as well when he receives it, and always wants to receive it in tight areas. Happy to receive the ball, whether he's got 2 or 3 players around him. And that takes bravery. He digs as well. I love this about him. He may not be the biggest lad in the world, but he can certainly leave his mark. Second half was tough because of the way that they sat in. But again, Mason was looking to get in behind. Unlucky on this occasion that we didn't get on the end of it. And always looking, again, to move the ball forward. This is a nice piece of build-up play that ends up with Ziyech having a shot. He's look where he's standing now. He's not happy with his place. Happy to keep moving. In the end, the ball does fall to Ziyech. On this occasion, just desperately unlucky not to hit the target. But of course, it's all about goals. Unfortunately, on this occasion, Giroud was just offside. But the big moment in the game, the moment where we really needed this quality, it's a difficult skill, this. You've got to keep over it, got to make sure you get good contact and keep the ball down. He does that, and boy did he deserve it. If he can add that, as Frank has said, to his game, add more goals, then we really are looking at the complete midfielder.
It leads us nicely on to hot topic 3 for today, which is Mason Mount, our most consistent performer of the season. You know, he's had more minutes in the squad than any other player. He's been in the joint most matchday squads. He seems an ever-present for Frank Lampard. And Jace, that the challenge from Frank was to score more goals from midfield. You know, he's got 3 goals and 6 assists this season, but we see him do so much that we do rely on him quite a lot now, don't we?
Hugely. He's such a lovely player to watch, and I know I'm probably speaking on behalf of, in fact I know I am. We all love him when he's on the pitch, and the energy he brings, the enthusiasm, the work rate. But he isn't just that. That kind of undersells him a little bit. The first thing that most people say is pretty much similar to what I've just said there, because it's so noticeable. Actually, he's better than that. He's got good quality. He's got good feet. Always looking for the forward pass. Always looking to try and get that ball forward centrally. If it's not there centrally, he'll look to go out wide. If he can go out wide, he'll go and join. He's always looking. He's always on the move. He's always looking for something that he can create, something that's new. Always offering himself, even in tight areas. Frank loves him. We all love him, and I think we're very lucky to have him. He's a brilliant player. He's a lovely lad. I love the way he plays. He's got a smile on his face. He got 1 goal, could have had 2 on another day. That goes in and the game's much easier against Fulham and things change dramatically. But you're right. Frank's right. Goals will come. Naturally, that will be something that he will develop and grow into his game. But yeah, we're so reliant on him now. And he is one of the first names on the team sheet. And, you know, he's only 22. There's so much more to come.
Dan, this isn't new as well. Like Jason said, Frank Lampard relies on him. Frank Lampard will pick him in most squads because he knows that we're stronger with Mason Mount in the team. Gareth Southgate does the same for England. Like, you know, he's 22 and he's an ever-present for his club and country. Whatever team he's played in, whether it be Derby, whether it be on loan at Vitesse years back or through the youth academy system at Chelsea, he's always been an ever-present. That work rate, like Jason said, probably takes away a little bit from the fact how technically good he is. But as an all-round commodity, as an all-round player, and as more so, you know, we'll get a little bit sentimental here, but as an ambassador for this football club, he's superb, isn't he?
He's incredible. He's just the bright spark of this Chelsea team, probably over the last 2 seasons. He's so reliable, and it's no surprise that no matter what team he's at, if he's available to play, he plays. just such work ethic, quality on the ball, can spot a pass. He's tenacious. He naturally wants to do the right thing. So I just feel like he's got such a high ceiling. You know, he's 22 years old. He's literally a baby in terms of he's a number 8 playing in the Premier League. You know, this is as big and as tough as it gets, and he's still performing week in, week out. So it will be so interesting and exciting to see where he goes from here. But we need him. We really do. You know, it's not often that a Chelsea squad or a Chelsea team is going to say, look, we're relying on a 22-year-old academy graduate to kind of drag us through the mud. But it is, you know, that important.
So it's a big game for him tonight as well. And Zach, you know, he's up against a tough midfield Leicester. We've already flagged it with the battle Mateo Kovacic has got on. But, you know, you look at someone like James Maddison, who directly or indirectly might be sort of competing for the same England spot potentially as Mason Mount. Today's an opportunity for Mason to do exactly what he's been doing every single week on the stage where we see it every week, but perhaps other people start to take notice of how good he is, in addition to the work rate and the effort and the application and everything else that he puts in. Yeah,
there's probably been periods throughout his Chelsea career where Mason's probably got criticism that actually wasn't quite deserved. I think he's always tried his best. And as we said, like, he's super young. I think people forget this sometimes. He's already played, I think, this first season for Chelsea, over 50 games, which is mental. That is not something that happens normally. And so we look at him, we think, oh God, like this, we forget that this guy is only just turned 22 years old. He's still learning his trade. He's still learning what the Premier League is about. Like, this is someone who, in 5 years' time, we may look back and go, oh my God, look at the player he's become now. Look at where he is. And not just on the football pitch as well. Like, me and Dan have had the pleasure of speaking to him several times. And he's well-grounded. He loves the club, everything about Chelsea. He lives and breathes football. And I think we've spoken to him. It's like everything what he did to build up to where he is now is about football. He didn't go to parties. He made sure he was training all the time. He stays behind for training. Nowadays, he's a great lad who I think the future is so bright for him, and for England internationally and Chelsea. Yeah, it's going to be great watching him play. But yeah, big game for him today.
Jace, another ever-present in the side this season has been Ben Chilwell. Made a terrific impact since joining from tonight's opponents, Leicester City, in the summer. You kind of forget with Ben, and I think it's the biggest compliment we can pay him, is you forget they only signed in the summer. He feels like he's a player that's been here for 4 or 5 years. He's bedded in so well, and his impact has been, it's been clear and obvious for everyone to see.
Yeah, I don't think we should underestimate also the fact that he comes from a Premier League side and has adjusted and adapted well. I'm not taking anything away from him, but a number of other players, I think it's fair to say that the Ziyech, Timo, Kai, haven't quite had that adjustment. Maybe it's because culturally and, moving from a completely different style of football, different country during COVID, must be difficult. Ben hasn't had those issues. It's been seamless. Again, though, good player. We've tracked him for a number of seasons. From what I know, Frank is a big fan, and he has slipped seamlessly in. And we almost take it for granted. You do forget that he's a new signing, because he's just come in and just played the way he did at Leicester. And I was just watching actually on the screen here, just watching him warm up, and he was just looking around the ground. And it's the first time he's going to go back. Of course it is. I just wonder how he feels going back to a ground where he made his name and he's got to put in a performance. There's no crowd. It's weird for everyone, but for him to go back to his old place now, he'll want to put in a good performance.
I reckon there's a few that are watching this on Play Predictor that have got Ben Chilwell down as first goal scorer. I reckon there's a few tonight. We've seen some pretty amazing strikes over the years against the Foxes, to be fair. Here are some of our favourites.
Maybe an opportunity here for a goal. Oh yes! Mutu is back. From absolutely nothing, the drought ends.
Fabregas pulls it back from Ramirez. Oh, look at that! What a finish! And it might get better here with Shevchenko! What a finish! Well, he's missed a couple of sitters, all right. That was a hammer into the roof of the net.
Leboeuf. It needed something special, and Leboeuf has delivered.
Oh, where's he pulled that from?
That's Azpilicueta volley. What a goal. We've seen some goals over the years. In fairness, someone that scored 2 last season at tonight's venue is Antonio Rudiger, getting the nod tonight ahead of Kurt Zouma again from the weekend. Jace, what do you make of that? You know, you're a player, obviously played at centre-half at the highest level. And I suppose, as in any position, you want consistency. You want to run a games, you want to play. But getting the nods two games in a row, does that say anything to you in terms of the Frank's mindset as perhaps Kurt been overtaken by Rudiger for the next couple of weeks? What do you think?
Very difficult to say, Joe. Really, I was surprised at the weekend, and I'm surprised today. I felt with Rudiger coming back against Fulham, I felt that 2 games in very quick succession for Silva might be a bit too much. Then I'm putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5, thinking that maybe he's going to bring Kurt back for the pace of Vardy. We do have Luton, of course, at the weekend, so Thiago will have a nice big long rest going into the games towards the end of this month. It's really difficult to say. You know, if you remember back at the beginning of the season, it probably felt to most people, it did me, that Rudiger was going to leave. His career might be elsewhere because he wasn't even in the squads. And now he's back playing against Leicester. Football can change very, very quickly. It's about taking chances. Didn't have a lot to do at the weekend, didn't do a lot wrong, but he has to be on it tonight because we know how Leicester are going to play and we know the balls that Leicester are going to be looking to play.
Dan, it is a strength, isn't it? Because, you know, we look on the bench tonight is Andreas Christensen, obviously back in the squad after that knee injury that he picked up against Aston Villa. So you've got in contention for international and very experienced defenders in Zouma, Silva, Rudiger, and Christensen. So it's one of those you're very blessed to have that amount of options in that position. So then you are kind of trying to second guess who's first choice, who's second choice, and if decisions like this happen at the weekend, we could see 2 new centre halves. Next week we could see a different centre half pairing. So there is that change in that rotation. That's got to be a strength when you've got games coming thick and fast.
Yeah, definitely for the amount of games that we play, but I feel like, you know, defenders, especially in the league, I feel like you want a level of consistency, just for everybody to kind of almost have a kind of, I don't know, just second nature. You know where your centre back partner is going to be, but look, they train every day. Frank Lampard is obviously in charge, and he sees them train, knows that know each other better than we think. You know, it's not like at our level or me and Zach's level where you just turn up on a Saturday and you play with a guy that you never met before. So it's look, I have trust in both Rudiger and in Kurt Zouma. I feel like Frank would have thought this through meticulously. And it's kind of the same all over the pitch. You know, we don't know a lot of who's going to be picked for what position and for what reason. So look, I trust Frank Lampard. I hope it comes off. I hope that it works and that Rudiger has a good game.
Zach, another big game and an opportunity tonight is Kai Havertz. Just something that Matt Davies-Adams, who's at the King Power Office tonight, said in the pre-match show, saying about obviously Chelsea's sort of how prolific they've been from corners and set pieces. You know, Kai Havertz aerially, that's a real threat as well. That's another sort of string to his bow. But hopefully a big performance from him tonight.
For sure, yeah. I think even though we lost the game against City, when Kai came on, I actually was kind of impressed. I mean, he got the assist, a really good ball to Callum who put it away, and I thought it was he'd done well in those minutes given the situation. Thought he was decent against Morecambe. He didn't really play against Fulham, and today he this is it. I mean, if you look at his stats in the Bundesliga when he was by Leverkusen last year, the second half of the season is where he really kicks on. And maybe that's comparison to this might be something that happens this year as well. Aerially, I actually think he's maybe the second or third best in the squad. Maybe Giroud and Zouma ahead of him, possibly Tammy as well. And so he definitely helps when we seem to like crossing it, especially with Reece James back now as well. That will be more lethal from that right side. But yeah, I think we might see a we might see him push on a little bit more rather than Mount had done or had been doing previously. It's interesting. I think he's still as well, like we said it with Mason. Mason's 22. Kai's younger than Mason Mount, right? And he's got so much growth and so much potential there. Everyone's very quick to point fingers and to judge, and to a degree, it's understandable. Chelsea is a side that needs people performing, but patience is the virtue. He will come good.
Absolutely, mate. Jason, one final little word on Christian Pulisic, because a lot of the chat is about Callum Hudson-Odoi tonight and about if he can take his opportunity and maybe sort of cement down one of those wider positions. It's a great opportunity for Christian Pulisic as well tonight.
It is. I think he's perhaps one of the luckier ones to be in the side right now. If I was picking this team, I'd have Ziyech. I'd persist with Ziyech on that right, and he's been off it a little bit. Again, another player who's had injuries. I think we need to be mindful of that. Not quite up to full speed. He will have more space today because the way against Fulham, we all know they doubled up. The midfield tracked deep. He'd taken on a wing back and then a centre half was coming across. Very little space in which to operate. Very little space. What's he good at? He's good at running defenders and spacing behind. Had none of that. He will find there's going to be more of that today. When the opportunity presents itself, be bold. He is. He's a brave boy. He ain't the biggest lad in the world, but he seems to find spaces. He will commit a defender. And I think today's game, away from home, this is probably one of the better sides that you're going to get a little bit more space. When the opportunity comes, I'd love to see him really commit and take on the fullback.
Absolutely. Well, he's looking to mark his 50th appearance for Chelsea tonight with a good performance. Of course, we'll be back at half-time, but that is all from us for now. Before we join our commentary team, we caught up with Frank Lampard to get his thoughts ahead of tonight's game.
Frank, first of all, Thiago Silva, he's played 17 games for you already this season. Has he made an even bigger impact than you even thought he would?
He's made a big impact. It was hard to gauge it as he came in because I knew he was a top quality player. Of course, at the back end of his career, I knew that there'll be an element of trying to manage him as well day to day, which has been pretty easy because of his attitude and how he prepares himself. But yeah, he's made a big impact, certainly on the pitch, which we've seen, on the people around him because of his attitude and how he behaves. Kind of people follow that. And his experience in the team. So yeah, been delighted with him.
Interesting you say that he's had an impact on the people around him. Have you seen other people maybe raise their game in line with his?
Well, I'd like to think so. I hope so. And I think when you saw in particularly our unbeaten run, what you could see, we really got a consistency in how we were defending. I think he reminds me of John Terry a lot in how he positions himself to defend the box when balls are coming in from wide. It was something that I knew we needed to work on, and so from him being there and naturally having that ability and other players seeing that, then it improved us, of course. So no, it's important that you have players that set standards, particularly when we have a young squad, because bit by bit, day by day, the young players look up to them, whether it's their behaviour or whether it's just some of the things they do on pitch. So he's certainly given us that.
Do you think he's had to adapt his game since coming to England?
I think every player that comes here, I'm certainly finding in my role now as a coach, more than I did as a player, is that they all the players have to adapt. This league is different. It's more physical. It's faster. The demands are bigger and firmer than some of the other leagues, and they're great leagues. Players that are coming from Germany, France, etc., Holland, they're very good leagues, but there is a relentlessness about the Premier League that demands more from the players. So I think everybody, not just Thiago, even at his age and experience, is still have to adapt slightly to the challenges that it brings.
Speaking of defenders, Ben Chilwell goes back to his former club as we face Leicester, of course. Just how pleased have you been with his impact at both ends of the pitch since joining the club?
Yeah, I've been really pleased with Ben. His form immediately from coming into the team has been so impressive. It's been great for us in and around the dressing room. His character came through very quickly, so a great addition on all fronts. And yeah, joining in for us at left back, and he's been getting, I think, assists and scoring a couple of goals for us, and that's just going to become even more the more he settles. He's still very young, Ben. People forget that because he came through so regularly for Leicester at a young age. But no, he's been a great addition, and we're very happy to have him.
Speaking of goals, you've scored 33 now in the Premier League, which is the same as Manchester United, who are the current leaders. Does that, I guess, help to illustrate just how close we are at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. And we were top scorers for a while in our good patch around the start of December, top scorers in the league. And then we found it harder. And I think sometimes football is the simple things about how much you're you're finding in there and how clinical you are make big differences. And we know that, and it's clear when you see. And the line is so small between those extra points that would have us probably sitting very, very close to the top, and where we haven't had those moments in games and recently, then we're a few points less than what we want to be. So we must stay positive and know that if we can get that consistency and clinical nature in front of goal again, we'll score even more goals, and that will obviously bring us more points.
Finally then, with that in mind, Frank, you go up against a Leicester side that also like to play on the front foot, don't they? Does that point, do you think, to an open game at the King Power?
We'll see. I think Leicester had the potential to do both. I think they can play on the front foot because they have good talent and can control possession. They also have seen them a few times this year play on the counter-attack and get very good results against certain teams. That's why they've been so good away from home in particularly, but they can do both sides of the game, which I think is a strength of a team and always difficult to go up against. So we'll have to be ready for both sides of it with them and trust ourselves that we can also do both. We can be organised to counter because we have players that are real threats on the counter-attack with our speed, but also to try and get a domination of possession, which we normally do get, but good possession that we can turn into creation of chances. It'll be a tough match. Leicester are near the top for a reason, but we have to believe in ourselves and we go there trying to win.